Hello, and welcome to Steve's Mixtapes. My guest mixer this week will be well known to any Fall fan who has ever decided to look up one of Marky Smith's lyrics to find out either what the words he was singing might mean, or indeed what the words actually were. An internet search would almost certainly take you to the Annotated Fall, a website that was the very definition of a labour of love, taking every single Fall lyric and analysing it to within an inch of its life. Many of MES's lyrics were inspired by random bits of books, films, articles or adverts that he happened to come across, and the Annotated Fall did an incredible job of tracking these down, as well as offering a huge range of interpretation, although how realistic and tenuous these interpretations were could vary significantly. A prime example, which I'll put a link to on the webpage at stevesmixtapes.com, is the entry on New Puritan, which happens to be one of my favourite Fall songs. This contains 18 annotations, over 5,000 words of text, followed by 120 comments by users of the site. Now, the man behind this site was only known until today as the mysterious bzfgt, or bzfgt, as I always pronounced it, but he tells me it's just a random selection of letters, so there is no correct way of pronouncing it. But I can reveal today that his real name is Christopher Ruth. So, hello, Chris.
Hi, Steve.
How are you?
Great. Good to be here.
Okay. So just as you have been fairly mysterious up till now, I won't delve too deeply, but as I understand it, you're a lecturer in philosophy in New Jersey, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And people who listen to a lot of Fall stuff or have indeed read the foreword to my book will possibly know this story already, but do you just want to tell us a little bit about how you got into the Fall and then how you came to create the Annotated Fall?
Yeah, a friend of mine mentioned that they were his favorite group, and I guess it seemed, it was somebody whose taste in music I sort of took seriously, so it seemed like something I should familiarize myself with. So he actually made me a compilation. I think it was several CDs. I don't
Five
remember.
CDs, I seem to remember you saying, I think.
Yeah, I probably remembered how many last time I told you the story, right? Probably five CDs. And I listened to it for a while. I didn't like it at first, and then I started to like it, and then I started to love it. But the lyrics were rather perplexing often. And a lot of it seemed like there were obviously references going on that I wasn't picking up. And sometimes the references are very obscure, like that one song, Hostile, that Dan found old newspaper articles, on a fairly obscure phenomenon, I think, that from which a lot of the lyrics were derived. So there's a lot of things like references going on, but they're not references to anything most people would know about. So it seemed like there had to be something like the Annotated Fall, right? Because otherwise people wouldn't be picking up things in the lyrics that were tantalizing, and they were there, but they were sort of obscure nevertheless.
You mentioned Dan. I'll be very surprised if anybody listening to your episode doesn't know who that is, but this is Danny No, as he's known online, who, to be fair, I mean, you often say the site is yours, but an awful lot of the legwork of the research is actually down to Dan, isn't it?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, I have asked Dan to come on this. He's politely declined. It's not his sort of thing. Um, so he has been on a few other
Our
fall-related podcasts.
competition or whatever thing either. The fall, song competition we did, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, no, he didn't participate in that either. Yes, the Fall Cup that we did, which I'll put a link to that as well on the webpage. I would imagine as well, there's a number of people who frequent the Fall Online forum that are from America, and of course, a lot of Smith's references are very culturally British, aren't they?
Yeah, that was a big thing. Yes. So there's a lot of things in there that I think a lot of people from, the UK would probably pick up a lot quicker, and that remain mysterious to me. So I guess part of the purpose of the site was maybe explaining certain things to Americans also. Yes.
Hmm. Now, the big question about the site is, of course, the link that I mentioned to New Puritan is actually from a web archive site, because late last year it disappeared. What happened to it?
Well, the web host just got rid of it, and they had a thing on their site saying that you have 30 days to contact them and ask them to restore it if they got rid of it. So I contacted them. I tried to contact them via the site, via the link at the site numerous times. I tried to email them. I even responded to posts on their Twitter feed, and they never got back to me, and the site just disappeared, which is a real horrible. And I think there's a way to just get it back from the archive and restore it somehow, and I haven't really figured it out yet. I'm not that savvy with things like that, and my energy's been elsewhere, but it represents an awful lot of work. I mean,
Yeah.
there were a lot of 10-hour stretches where I was up all night over a period of a decade. So I'd really like to get it back.
Yeah, I remember there's a few times you posted on the 409 forum about having a huge backlog of comments to respond to with people sending things in. Dan, who we mentioned before, has sort of done his own version, hasn't he? Which again, I'll put a link to. I'm not quite sure where he's up to with that, but he's going through that in his inimitable, meticulous style.
That's right. I haven't looked at his in a while, so it was at a pretty early stage when I looked at it, but I'm sure he's probably got a lot more going on now, and I'm sure that'll be great.
Okay, Chris, so we'll get to the music, but just before we get to the music, I have to ask you this question. Would you describe yourself as an indecisive person? I
Um,
asked this question while you have a chance to think about it. I asked this question because everybody up till now, and you are my 30 something interviewee, has just sent me a playlist. But you've made at least, I think we're on version five of the playlist now. You've made a number of swaps in the last sort of 24 hours.
yeah,
Would you say that's
I guess
characteristic?
so. I guess so, yeah. And it's particularly difficult with music because my mind changes constantly, and um whatever I give you is inevitably going to be somewhat skewed towards what I'm into recently because I it always changes. And
Yeah, well, that's absolutely fine, and I'm working on the basis that some of the best guests I'll have on again in the future. They can choose another set of songs,
well,
but
there's
we'll.
also a kind of sense that with something like this, it's almost like you're representing yourself, right?
Hmm.
I like, or at least for someone who's like really heavily into music, like both of us are. You know what I mean? Somebody asks, give me 9, 10 songs. It seems almost like they have to be definitive, which of course is impossible. I mean, they're not definitive, but it almost feels like you're exposing yourself in some way or something like that. So you want to
Yeah.
take care over it.
And of course, you mentioned you and I both been into music, but actually, there's a lot of similar music that we're into. I had Eric, who of course we both know very well. Eric Smith was one of my first guests, and he and I, although we love talking about music, actually have quite a slim Venn diagram intersection. There's a lot of stuff that we both like that the other doesn't care for. But you and I have some a big overlap in a certain genre of music in particular. But we'll come back to that later on because I think it's about time we got to some music.
All
So
right.
your hit the ground running track for a long time. This was going to be the Ramones, which a fairly ideal candidate. You could pick pretty much any Ramones song, couldn't you, to start off a mix? But you've decided to discard that and go for another cracking band, the OCs. Why this particular song?
Well, when I think it hit the ground running, it's a song that has a lot of forward momentum, as indeed the Ramones selection also did. I'm not sure with the OCs. I'm often not sure exactly what the song's about lyrically. It's almost more evocative or sort of than narrative or declarative in any way. There's just so it's really hard to say what makes a song good, right? But
Mhm.
there's a kind of energy to it that always gets me when I listen to it.
I
So
mean, I've never written at length about the OCs, but it would be quite hard to do so without overusing the words driving and relentless, wouldn't it?
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And it's definitely from the sort of central period of their career when, I'd say it's fairly representative in certain ways of that period. And um, lately they've gotten into other kind of areas. They've been doing stuff that's a little more maybe punk and new wave
Yeah.
influence. But
Yeah.
this is kind of the first period's kind of like garage band. And then they start adding more psychedelic and prog elements. And This is kind of in the middle, and they get more proggy after that, and lately they've taken another kind of turn. So I kind of almost look at this as like the classic period, like it really sort of epitomizes maybe their strongest stuff.
Okay, well, let's hear it now. This is a single from 2016. This is Fortress. The OCs with Fortress. Now, a question, Chris, I ask every mixer is have you always been somebody for making compilations, mixtapes, etc.? Is that something you've always done?
No, and that's a really interesting question in a way for me because I did over the past year start listening to mixes for a while. I had a period of it last fall. But overall, through my life, I have not done that very much. I usually listen to albums, which isn't a very common thing these days. I mean, it seems like most people listen to mixes now. It's
Yeah,
become
I mean, I found myself returning to albums last year. I made a decision in the new year last year that I would try and do that, and actually, it stuck with me without really having to do a lot. Although, obviously, this year with doing this show, I've listened to an awful lot of mixes. So yeah, okay. And the other thing
well,
I wanted to
I
mention.
think there's a virtue of mixes which is not often remarked on, or maybe it's idiosyncratic to me or something. But there are certain artists that um, I love to hear a song or two, and it's not that they only have one or two good songs. It's just that listening to a whole album just doesn't work for me. And with a mix, so certain artists really rose in my rotation by being able to listen that way.
Well, I would say for me, and I'll might get hate mail for saying this, but I love Half Man, Half Biscuit, but I find them an ideal compilation band. I don't often want to listen to a whole album by them, but a little ditty by them in the middle of a mix is often a great idea, I find. Now, just before we get to your something old choice, I mentioned about Fall fans being familiar with you. Anybody who's a big Deadhead may well be familiar with your work as well, because one of the things that took you away from the annotated Fall was your Every Dark Star blog, where you, if you're not familiar, Dark Star is a Grateful Dead song that I can't remember what was the first year it was released. It was quite a short song to begin with, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 67.
And then it was a bit of a mainstay of their live set for years and years, with a big gap in the middle. I think they stopped playing it for a while, and it varies from sort of 5, 7 minutes in length to some ones that go over half an hour. And you took it upon yourself to analyze. And I'm not going to say I've read all of them. I certainly haven't, but all I think 216 you've done in absolutely minute detail. So. Before we get to the Grateful Dead themselves, why this song? What is it about this song that fascinates you so much?
Yeah, well, there's a few songs that the Grateful Dead turn into kind of a improvisation showcase, I guess you could say. And particularly in the early 70s when fairly free improvisation was an important part of their set just about every night. And often the vehicle was Dark Star. So I think for a lot of Grateful Dead fans, Dark Star is kind of the vehicle par excellence for that kind of collective improvisation, which isn't something you often get in rock or with rock instrumentation.
And there's a number of sort of common themes that recur that appear in some versions and others. For example, reading your site, I only just discovered that there's a little section that resembles Paul Simon's "Feeling Groovy."
Right, the chord changes do, yeah, or at least fans have said so. I mean, I guess it's a similar chord progression.
Yeah.
I don't know that the band ever named these things or had anything much to say about them, but it mostly, particularly in the first 4 years of Dark Star's existence, it would sometimes contain these. I call them modular jams because they can be
Hmm.
moved from song to song or site to site, and they just kind of pop up here and there.
So you've chosen a Grateful Dead song for your something old choice. You haven't gone for Dark Star, though you have gone for something quite lengthy. I think this clocks in around 15 minutes or so. Um, the version that you've gone for, I think I've got I have got the right version. Comes from, or it was released on a CD box set called 30 Trips Around the Sun, which I was astonishingly reading up is an 80 CD box set with 73 hours of music that cost $700 when it was released. Do you own that?
No, I
Okay, fair enough.
didn't buy it anyway. Let's put it like that. But
Okay.
it's
Well,
it's
there's a lot of live recordings out there, aren't there? Because they famously used to encourage people to record.
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of soundboard recordings, or I think you call them over there desk recordings that have really excellent sound quality that circulate. Particularly over the last 20, 25 years, once everything got put on the internet, you could pretty much get anything you want now
Okay.
if it exists.
So the song you've gone from is Viola Lee Blues. Any particular reason you've chosen this one?
Well, this is, I guess the theme is something old, and it's old because it's from 1967. It's also old in Grateful Dead terms because the Dead started in late 65, and they were just sort of hitting their stride in a certain way, I think, with this 1967 show. And it's kind of still has a lot of characteristics of their early sort of more garage band style, I think, but with an extended kind of piece. So it's very energetic and very well played, I guess. It's an old song by I think the Mississippi Sheiks, or no, Noah Lewis, maybe something like that. It's an old kind of song from maybe the 20s or 30s, something like that. But they took it and made it into a jam sort of showcase. Very sort of energetic and kind of noisy playing. They dropped the song after I think 1970. The last versions are in 1970. They started to have a little bit more of a sophisticated sound, and it probably didn't fit in as much to their trip from that point.
The Grateful Dead with Viola Lee Blues, the something old choice of my guest mixer this week, Chris Ruth. Now we're going on to something new, and my standard question is how do you attempt to keep abreast of contemporary music with the ridiculous number of releases that come out, or do you even try?
I don't really try very much, but I did realize, for a playlist, a lot of the music I listen to is it's hard to characterize, but it's sort of in the universe of free jazz or free improvisation or European free improvisation and or avant-garde new music type stuff. And in that case, there are rarely instances of digestible uh increments. So I didn't even think of that at first for this playlist. But Cosmic Ear is something with Mats Gustafsson, who's a he plays saxophone and often plays baritone sax, and it's somebody I sort of keep abreast of if I can. So this just came out very recently. I don't remember, maybe May. And I didn't really get a chance to digest the whole album yet, but there's a version, a kind of take on Brown Rice by Don Cherry here that's I think pretty.
Yeah, because what I often do with these, when I get them, I make a playlist of them. Normally, I start off with Spotify because that's the quickest way to do it, and I stick it on and just have it in the background just to get a feel for what the mix sounds like. And this came on, and I thought that sounds really familiar. What is that? And yeah, so it's like a reimagining of Don Cherry's Brown Rice. And if those of you who are not aware, Don Cherry, if you're a bit of an 80s pop kid, was the stepfather of Nana Cherry of Buffalo Stance fame, and Eagle Eye Cherry, who had a big hit single, which name escaped me, something tonight, save tonight, something like that. So yeah, but Brown Rice, I'll put a link to that as well, because Brown Rice is a great album. It's from I can't remember what year it actually is, but it's certainly from that golden period, late 60s, early 70s of
It's in the
jazz.
70s for sure. I think it's mid 70s. So
Yeah, 74, 75, something like that. It's in that sweet spot for jazz for me, late 60s, early 70s. Yeah, definitely. So the band is called Cosmic Ear, and this is called Traces of Brown Rice. Released, as my guest mixer said quite rightly, very, very recently, that was Cosmic Ear with Traces of Brown Rice from an album called Traces. Okay, so we're moving on to your Something Borrowed choice. Now, this is a Gene Clark song, but he sings it. It's a duet with Carla Olson, who apparently she first met Gene Clark when she was dragged on stage to sing I'll Feel a Whole Lot Better, and he introduced himself to her during his guitar solo, which I thought was an interesting little story. But this is it's an old song, isn't it? It's an old folk song called an Appalachian folk ballad, I gather, called Come All You Fair and Tender Ladies, sometimes known as Tiny Sparrow or Little Sparrow. And it's been covered, I should say, by 100 artists, including Joan Baez, Emmylou Harris, Bob Dylan, and Dolly Parton. I don't know whether you're familiar with any of those versions, but the song is called Fair and Tender Ladies. So what led you to choose this?
I guess I really like Gene Clark, and I like his singing quite a bit. And there's kind of a thing where an artist gets a little older and it's kind of, almost become a trope or something. There's kind of like this world weary, older artist type trip that I think is exemplified really well on this. It just seemed, and especially, of course, people didn't know then that Gene Clark would die fairly young in a few years, but it's in retrospect towards the end of his life. And I just think it is a song that's been done ad infinitum, really. It's like an old chestnut. And I feel like it's remarkable how much he gets out of this song. It's a great song, though. I mean, but I think the performance is quite noteworthy.
My daddy was a handsome gambler. He had a chain 5 miles long. On every lane, a heart to tangle of another maid. Loved and wronged. He'd tell to you some loving story. He'd make you think he believed them true. But love grows cold as love grows older and fades away like morning dew. I'd rather be in some dark hollow where the sun refused to shine than to live here in Missouri with your memory always haunting my mind. Come on, ye fair and tender ladies, take one wondering how you caught your man. They're like a star on a summer's morning. First they appear, then they're gone again. Come all ye fair and tender ladies, take warning how you caught your man. They're like a star on a summer's morning. First they appear, then they're gone again.
From the 1987 album So Rebellious a Lover, that was Gene Clark with Carla Olson and Fair and Tender Ladies. Okay, Something Blue we're going on to now, Chris. Now, people have interpreted this in different ways. We've had sad songs, we've had songs that just happen to have the word blue in the title. You've gone for something with very much an air of blues about it. I must confess, I didn't know the artist at all. So they're called 156075, or the Numbers Band. I looked them up and I came across a Guardian review, obviously of a re-release of this album. This is from a live album, originally from 1976. And they called them a superhuman bar band. There's something of television's coiling, tangling intricacy here, with tilts at beefheart, afrobeat, krautrock, free jazz, and stern striding funk. Now that's a description to sell an artist to me in no uncertain terms. So tell me about the Numbers Band. What's 156075 about? Where's the name come from? Do you know?
I've probably looked it up before, but I don't recall. They're a band from Ohio. By the way, that description seems maybe a little overblown. I mean, it's a blues number, and it has just an excellent groove to it that it's the kind of thing that I could just sink into it and listen to it over and over. And I have listened to the rest of the album and maybe some of their other stuff, but nothing really stuck with me except for this one track.
I've listened to this track a few times. I did have a quick skip through the rest of the album. I have to say, the bar band bit, it's definitely very bluesy. I didn't really pick up the Afrobeat, krautrock, free jazz bit. I wondered if that was somewhere else in their career.
No, I didn't really either. So I don't know what that's about. I think at one point I was kind of interested in Per Ubu, and I was reading something led me to where I think David Thomas mentioned this band or something, because they're an Ohio band. So I guess they were like local legends or something like that. And then I found maybe on YouTube or something, I found probably this track. I mean, so right away I was, captivated when I heard this track, and never really went on from there. But it is definitely an excellent track.
Jimmy Bell by 156075, also known as the Numbers Band, from a 1976 live album called Jimmy Bell's Still in Town. Yeah, if they were describing another band with that mix of Beefheart, Afrobeat, krautrock, etc., we should both hear it, because it certainly sounds like an artist that we would both like.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to take things down a little bit, and you've gone for a bit of jazz. You've gone for Charles Mingus, a song that I know Joni Mitchell did a version of this, didn't she? She added lyrics to it on her tribute album to him. So the song's Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. It is a beautiful piece of music. Earlier on than I normally go for. It's 1959, which is a little earlier than the jazz I normally go for, but it is really quite delightful and relaxing, and yeah, really nice piece of music. Any particular reason you went for this one?
I guess just because I've been really into it recently. So this is kind of like an old chestnut warhorse. It's not the most inspired choice, maybe if I was looking to be impressive or obscure or something like that, but it's just beautiful. And I think it's John Handy that plays the tenor sax, which is the bulk of the song aside from the head, is just a tenor sax solo. It's just really spectacular, just really beautiful. So I guess, I don't know, over the past year I've been focusing on this track a little more, so it was near the top of my mind. And what was the premise of this one again?
Let's just take it down, something to like
Take it down. Yeah, okay. Well, this takes it down. Yeah, there you go.
From the 1959 album Mingus interesting title. That was Goodbye Pork Pie Hat by Charles Mingus. Okay, so we're getting to now. In this bit of the mix, you've actually broken lots of rules here because you've actually only chosen 9 songs because you sort of combined one song into 2 categories here. Partly because, as I suspected you might, you tended to go for quite lengthy tracks. So you've gone for something that could be around the world because this artist is Swedish, I think, but it also could be left of centre. So it's Fire Orchestra. They're a bit of a sort of Swedish improv supergroup in a way, aren't they?
Yeah, there's 2. There's Fire. It's just Fire with an exclamation mark after it. And then Fire Orchestra. So Fire is kind of a stripped down minimalist thing with just saxophone, bass, and drums. Sometimes they have guests and they have electronics, but it's fairly minimalist. And then Fire Orchestra is super maximalist. They get a bunch of people in playing all kinds of instruments. And I have to admit, I did struggle the most with Left of Center because it's hard to come up with something that isn't kind of a cliche or novelty or, weird for weird's sake on the one hand. And on the other hand, I guess there's a few things here that might be considered left of center, depending on how you.
Well, it depends, doesn't it? It depends where your own median point is. When we do, as I mentioned them a few times, when we do the mix it up thing on the Fall Online forum, where we all submit mixes to each other, it soon becomes apparent that people are coming from very different places. So for some people, the Fall sit at the most extreme end of what they listen to, and for some people, the Fall are very much at the mainstream end of what they listen to. So, I was really asking people to choose something that maybe for them is left of centre, the sort of thing that they don't, normally go for, I guess.
Yeah, and that does describe this for me for sure, but it kind of ironically, it's a little bit more of a pop song maybe than you often get in this kind of universe of music. This is, again, by the way, Mats Gustafsson, so I kind of doubled up on him. He's kind of maybe the main force behind Fire Orchestra, and it's a little more slick and poppy in a certain way. So in that way, I kind of went right to go left, maybe. But at the same time, it's it's kind of music that's outside the mainstream, and I think it's really well done. There's something about the song that kind of grabs me. It's sort of enthralling in a certain way, I guess. Like, it's the kind of thing you have to really sit through because if it doesn't claim your attention, it doesn't work as a kind of a background piece or something, I don't think, even though there's not a lot of movement, right? So you have to kind of get yourself on its wavelength and let it kind of surround you.
From the 2019 album Arrival, that was Fire Orchestra with I Am a Horizon, the around the world and left of centre choice of my guest mixer this week, Chris Ruth, also known as, well, bzfgt to me anyway. I don't know how anybody else pronounces it. Okay, so we're on to your wildcard choice. Now, poor old Bob Dylan has got the elbow here because he at one point was the wildcard choice and at one point was the finale. So you were going to have changing of the guards in there from Street Legal. Instead, you've chosen for somebody that I wasn't particularly familiar with, Michael Hurley. So tell us a little about Michael Hurley.
He was sort of a little bit of an outsider artist in some ways, maybe a folk, what gets called folk or singer-songwriter-ish, but a little more not like Elton John singer-songwriter.
No. I mean, he was part of the Greenwich scene, wasn't he?
Maybe. I think I you know, and I only really started listening to him over the past year, so
Okay.
I just kind of discovered it, and some of the stuff is just really great, but this is a song that's in some ways it sounds like an old time song, but in other, you know, maybe, but obviously composed by one person, and it kind of has there's something emotionally affecting about it, like the lyrics. A lot of the lyrics are kind of just about, I think, the banality of daily life with you know, with your spouse or partner or something like that, and I don't know, I find it really moving, and his vocal I find really excellent on here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wrote this is the only song of his I've heard, so I can't compare it to anything else. But yeah, no, I did like it. It's quite sparse and but almost lethargic in a way. But I don't mean that as a negative. But like you said, that reflects. It's about the mundanities of. It's all about, you know, his wife, her washing and her cooking and stuff like that. We mentioned cultural differences before, US UK, which is always a good topic of debate over on the Full Forum, of course. One thing that struck me, I'm just going to get the lyrics up because I don't know before. There's the lyric that goes, she buggers me and she'll bugger you. Oh man, she'd bugger you. Now, what in America? What does the word bugger mean? Because
it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, I know what it means in Britain, and I don't think he means it in any idiosyncratically American way. I think it just means that, you know, she'll bedevil you or something like that.
Okay.
I don't think he means literally some kind of anal.
Well, no. Well, I mean, bugger is one of those words. It's in English, it's a sort of semi-rude word. It's not a terrible cuss word, if you like. And it's like a lot of English words, has multitudes of meaning. It can mean, as you say, it can be an alternative word for sodomy, but it could also mean to mess around, so to bugger around. Or if you bugger something up, you mess it up. It can have, I don't know, a dozen different meanings, I guess. But none of which really quite seem to fit in with this. So I was just wondering whether there was some sort of, you know, I wondered if it was one of those words like fanny, which means something very different over there than it does here.
No, it's not a word people use much here, but
No.
I take it to just mean that, I guess bedevil is the best word I can think of. You know, she'll be a pain in the neck.
Let's hear it now. So it's called Sweetie D. Is that how you say it?
I believe so. Yeah.
It's by Michael Hurley and Pals. The album was titled. The album was Armchair Boogie from 1971. So let's hear it now.
My little woman causes me a lot of trouble sometimes. She worries me so bad, I don't know what to do. I take a walk. Figure the rolling of my feet would come to ease my mind. I'll just go away, and I won't know where I'm going. And I won't know where that I'm going to. 'Cause she bugger me, oh man, she'd bugger you. I'm with you in the morning, baby, till the break of day. know you won't take my heart. You're trying to make me go away. It seemed like everybody got a little hard luck sometime. I know one thing for sure, baby. I've been having mine, baby. I've been having mine. We had one of them old flea bag apartments. You know the kind I mean. You walk up on the 5th floor there. Sometimes on a sunny day from the roof, you can see them flying kites in Washington Square. I go up on the roof and I watch her hanging up the clothes, and I'd say to her, wash the clothes, sweetie D, and hang 'em on the line. And I can see by the way you wash the clothes, your cooking must be fine. I'm with you in the morning, baby, till the break of day. I know you don't want my heart, trying to make me go away. Seem like everybody got a little hard luck sometime, and I know one thing for sure. I've been having mine, baby. I've been having mine. I remember that old scumbag coffee shop where we used to hang out at. The manager there, he'd let us stay without paying a cover. I was always asking her sometime, we gotta leave the city. And I'd say to her, you wash them clothes, sweetie D, and hang 'em on the line. I can see by the way you wash the clothes, your cooking must be fine. I'm with you in the morning, baby, till the break of day. I know you won't take my heart, don't make me go away. Seem like everybody got a little hard luck sometime, and I know one thing for sure, baby. I've been having mine, baby. I've been having mine. You wash them clothes, sweetie D, and hang 'em on the line. I can see by the way you wash the
Okay then, Chris, we're moving on to your finale. But before we get to your finale track, I just wanted to ask, so you obviously, the Annotated Fall was a huge project. Your Every Dark Star was a huge project as well, but you've come to the end of that, is that right?
Yes.
So is there another big project in the pipeline, or have you had enough of big projects?
I've kind of had enough for a while, I think. Yeah. I mean, the Dark Star thing, I think, has been over for about a year and a half, and
Yeah.
I haven't really taken any initiative to take anything else on. If I did, I'd really like to find a way to rescue the Annotated Fall, but I don't think I'll ever be able to put the time in on that I used to.
No.
It's just a shame because there's new insights and new discoveries, continually. It's amazing how those lyrics afford so much new discovery and insight over time that it's
Yeah.
not even, that project could go on after I'm dead. I mean,
And you can't force these things. I mean, a number of people, including my wife, often ask me, are you going to write another book? And I would love to write another book, but I'm not going to write another book until I have something to write about. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
I could crank out a book about a particular artist or something, but lots of people do. But I'm not going to write anything until it's something I'm going to put my heart and soul into. Do you know what I mean?
I sure do. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah, it's hard work. And also, it's been more difficult the last couple of years because, as most listeners will know, I have two small people reside in my house, my 2.5-year-old twins, who make spending hours and hours in front of the laptop tapping away a little bit more challenging than it used to. Okay, we'll move on to your finale track. Now, interestingly, if you'd said to me by this stage, because you are going to be show number 30 something, 35 or something like that, I might have got that wrong. If you told me, have a punt on which artists would have had 3 songs chosen by now, I would not have gone for Blue Oyster Cult. But here we are. You're the third person to choose a Blue Oyster Cult song. So that's very interesting. So you've gone for the wonderfully titled "Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll."
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're one of, the central bands that I listen to, but they do kind of scratch a certain itch, I guess, in a way that it has to be them once in a while, that is remarkable that there's been 3. Are there any other artists that have had that many?
There's been, yes, well, the Fall have cropped up.
Yeah.
Sparks is the other one. I think is the second most popular.
Yeah, this song, Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll. I heard this on the radio when I was maybe 14 or 15, and it's the only time I heard it. But it's one of the, when you're that young, it's one of those things where you don't forget the song. There's things I might have heard 5 years ago. I don't think there's anything I've heard in the last 20 years that I just heard once and I could still remember how it goes and everything like that. But, I didn't really forget it. And I guess years later, when I realized that with the internet, I can listen to anything I want to, I summoned it back up and it didn't disappoint me. It's got a great riff, which I guess was based on the riff from The Wizard by Black Sabbath, I've read. And it is very similar once you hear that.
I do know that song. And obviously because I haven't had it that long and you've chopped and changed a little bit, I haven't listened to your list as in depth as some others. So I'll have to go back. But I do know The Wizard. That's off it's off the first album, in fact.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to go back and listen. Well, yeah. I mean, it's what the name suggests. The track title suggests: proper heads down rock and roll. So let's hear it. This is Blue Oyster Cult. Blue Oyster Cult from their eponymous 1972 debut album. That was Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll. A hard rocking way to finish the mix of my guest mixer this week, Chris Ruth. So, have you enjoyed? I mean, you chopped and changed, as I say, and didn't it took a while to finalize your list, but did you enjoy doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it turned out pretty well. Something like this is really difficult for me, and there's things that just don't like to do. I often get narrowly focused in my listening for fairly long periods of time, and there will be things that just don't speak to me, and things that I love and maybe that I've loved for a long time that just don't say anything to me for 6 months, a year. So putting a mix together is always particularly hard for me. And because my initial impulse will be to take everything I'm listening to, this month or something and just do that. And of course, that's not really what the whole exercise is about. So, but I was pleased with how it turned out. And of course, there's a lot of stuff that could have been on here. I didn't have any country music or old bluegrass music, which is stuff that I love. And, no list like this of 9 or 10 songs could be representative, really, but it all seems pretty vibrant to me. Like I could listen to that right now. So I'm pretty pleased.
Well, it's been fun to listen to. I should listen to it some more because I haven't given it that many spins yet. And it's been good to see you again, Chris. Good to catch up. It's been a while. It just remains for me to say thank you very much for coming on, Chris. It's been a real pleasure. And like I say, I hope you enjoyed it.
I sure did. Thanks, Steve.